Good evening, Bravo Nights. This is Dr. Lopez, principal of Bravo Medical Magnet, with another edition of the Good Night podcast. And today we have some special guests. Again, we always have special guests. We have interesting conversations, topics that are of interest to all of us. And today we have uh, Cindy Alonso and Aisha Isabeles. Let me see. Yes, I did say that correctly. So, Cindy and Aisha are going to join me today in a conversation about a topic that is very, very relevant today. Cindy happens to be the president of, not happens to be the president, she was elected and there was all sorts of process. So it wasn't like by accident, but she is the president of a club here at Bravo Medical Magnet that is called United We Dream at Bravo, or United We Dream Bravo. It was previously called Undocunite It. Undocunite It. Um, and it is a club, it is a service club, it is a civic engagement club, but I will let them talk a little bit more about what that means and why it's important. I think it's absolutely relevant. So thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Aisha, for joining me today. Um, it's great to have you here. So tell us a little bit about this club, United We Dream at Bravo. Why do we need this club at Bravo?
Okay, so United We Dream Bravo is a high school chapter of our parent organization, United We Dream. Um, with that stemming from the idea of student led youth advocacy for immigration rights and immigrant communities. So, with that being said, United We Dream Bravo is essentially a club that helps promote higher education within students of mixed status families and undocumented status.
Great, great. And so, how did we get in touch with United We Dream larger community?
Well, so first started off in my junior year. I have an older sister who did attend Bravo, and she's the one who was involved with United We Dream. She became current. First, she was a member, then she became an organizer. And during my junior year, I wanted to do an extracurricular. I wanted first it started off to look like for college, and my sister told me, well, maybe you should create a chapter, United We Dream, and then I started to look more into it to see what their purpose was, and my sister told me a bit more about how when she was in high school, she felt like there were resources for her, but it felt too limited. She wanted more accessible resources. It was really hard for her to like pursue higher education due to those limited resources, and that's when I actually got really interested within the organization, and I decided to create a club at Bravo, United We Dream, and started with Undocumented. And yeah, first it was for college for my extracurriculars, but it started to change into like a passion that I really care about. So now it's something that I'm really passionate about and want more people to know about and to do something about it to change and like keep our community safe.
So share with us a little bit more about the experience of actually being a club at Bravo. So, like, what has happened since the club has come into existence with other students, with staff? What are some of the experiences, good or bad? Just
Well, during our first year, it was very wonky. I've never been the type to actually lead something, and especially within the club, I did struggle a lot. It was really difficult trying to figure out what our motive was. Since, yes, we're trying to give out resources to undocumented students, but how do we do that? How are we going to make students feel safe and make sure that they aren't scared to join a club? Because I would see some rumors saying that, oh, like, don't join this club, like you don't know what's gonna happen. But that's like we wanted to keep students safe, so instead we went and maybe like no, we did. I think one of them was al otro lado donations. So what we did was donations to the U.S. and Mexican border to people in detention centers, and that's where we kind of started off. We wanted to like start off small, so we won't just like provide so much information and people don't know what to do about it. But I definitely do think this year was better, and Sydney can explain about that.
Yeah, so essentially our first year, it was, learning the ropes. It was getting in contact with organizations that could support us, such as Al Otro Lado, like Aisha mentioned. This year, we were fortunate enough to say that we did have successful events with the help, obviously, of staff, of our sponsor, of United We Dream. We have an advisor who helps us guides us through these events and through ideas that we might have. Our board is obviously really like collaborative in the sense of we come up with ideas and we have a plan to execute them. This year, we were lucky enough to execute an event called Together We Fly, a celebration of migration. Essentially, what it was is in the senior patio, we had students gather and color monarch butterflies. Um, and it was just a representation that migration is beautiful on campus. It was a way to have students connect with one another and really just show like the unity and the power of student strength and student community and how we can support one another through these difficult times. And we had a great turnout. I think we had about 180 butterflies colored. And we have butterflies with the collaboration of Miss Montes in the College Center dangling from the ceiling to just show that like representation of how beautiful the monarch butterfly and its migration is. So luckily, yeah, this year we were able to do a couple more things. We recently did Valentine's grams, and we're donating them to the Altadena girls due to the fires that recently happened a couple months ago. And we're just really working on a new event soon, so that'll be announced. And it's gonna be called My Story, and that is basically humanizing the experience of what it's like to live and exist in immigrant communities. We're gonna have students speak what they want, write it on a post-it, and post it on a large like poster board. And it's just a way for students to express themselves, to just write their story, and to basically humanize what's going on right now.
I think it's really important to humanize things because the conversations tend to just focus on numbers and on economics, on financial effects, either positive or negative, but the human factor is forgotten sometimes, and that's actually the most important part. And that brings me to my next wondering. As the principal here at Bravo, I hear stories and I hear complaints and concerns, and one of the more common things that I hear is fear, this idea of fear, right? And not just fear with students, but also families, parents, right? And some of the adults who work here, they're documented, they're here, they're citizens, they may have even been born here, but they're also afraid. What has been the experience for you guys? And not necessarily with you specifically, but with your peers, or if you also have experienced that.
Yeah, so with that being said, we understand fear is a great factor, and it's something that has been happening even before, the election of the president we have currently. So what we did is, in order to kind of pacify and help alleviate that fear, we planned a Know Your Rights workshop. And we had admin obviously included, and we reached out to organizations like Chirla and United We Dream to help us become trained in that aspect, and for us to obviously bring it to this community that might need it. And so I think we started planning that in November, and we successfully did it in December. And even then, we hosted another Know Your Rights workshop for students in one of our club meetings. And what this did is we received a lot of student feedback, and they just felt immediately more comfortable. It's hard to access resources sometimes, and what we want to do, our mission as United We Dream Bravo, is to be that bridge and that pathway between students and resources that we luckily have the connections to. So with those workshops, we hopefully plan on doing more later this semester, but that is just another step that we're taking, obviously with the fear that's going on. We immediately had that fear, as well as, being part of Boyle Heights. We are living in the epicenter of immigrant communities alike. And so we just found it very important to address that fear, but also help alleviate it.
Great. The incidents, the events that have been taking place recently put a spotlight on LA schools because there have been a lot of walkouts, right? and there are potentially more walkouts scheduled for the future. So we want to make sure the students are safe. We want to make sure the students are heard and that they feel welcomed and comfortable. And we want to teach them civic engagement. So talk a little bit to us about the walkouts and how that's, you know, whether that's your work or not your work, and whether and how does it affect your work, right? Because I know that I know myself what went on, but I want to make sure that you explain it. We'll give you the chance to explain it, actually.
So the first walkout, it was very spontaneous. Our club had nothing to do with it. We do think that it can be a good way to, be heard, to like let people know like what you think, but it's also there are also more things that can be involved, such as like
Organization.
yeah, being a little bit more educated before doing something without intentionally knowing the demand for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like we've mentioned, United We Dream has been very meticulous about training us on how to, if we have a demand for something, how to go about it in an organized way. The walkout a couple weeks ago was not our work, and we were quick to think like, oh my God, like they might pin it on the only undocumented club on campus. But as previous experience, we both have experience interning at nonprofits. On my end, I've interned at Chirla and Roots for Peace and United We Dream. So these organizations, these nonprofit organizations that have already been established, have guided us to think, to believe in organization, in planning, and when students demand for something, to have a specific cause in mind. We think that it's important to be informed and educated, which is why, as United We Dream Bravo, we've been advocating for that, for helping students become more informed about their resources, about consequences to their actions, about any necessity that they might have or need. So when it comes to organizing, we're very like, we have to plan it a month ahead. And when it came to that, we said, hey, you know what? It's, beautiful to see that there's so much passion and there's so much love for a cause like this. And we just hope that for future references, it's, there's a clear demand at hand. Something that's tangible, something that's reasonable, and something that could be achieved with the right intentions and with the right, aspects in mind.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was trained as an organizer way back in my younger days too, and one of the first things they told us was about make sure that you know what your ask is, right, and who you're going to ask it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then you organize a community around that. So thank you. Yeah, I do think that there are different aspects to, or different forms, different ways in which we can use our voice.
Yeah.
That's one of them. There are multiple other ways to use your voice to make sure that you're heard. Why is voice important, though? Why is it important to make sure that we talk about the human experience, right? And that that voice is used to share that human experience.
Well, what we've always said is, as this club, we want to create a safe space. We want to create an environment where students feel like they can be heard, they can be seen, and if they have questions, hopefully we can provide answers and or resources. As this club, we believe that voice is everything. Voice is power, voice is love, it's passion, it's a way for students, for people, for communities alike to be heard, to be seen. And, we've seen it in the past with other movements, like Black Lives Matter movement, additional, like, women rights movement. It's something that has been historically a part of our country, of our history, of our, like our whole bloodline, our whole family tree. It's something that can be stemmed way back to our years before. And it's so important to maintain that voice. We see these students, they're voicing their opinions, their experiences, and at the end of the day, every voice is valid. And that's what we've been trying to help emphasize, that every person's voice is valid, it's heard, it's seen, and that hopefully we can just be a bridge to allowing that voice to be heard on a bigger scale. United We Dream, as our parent organization, has been known to be, at the stead front of actions, of movements that have reached, the U.S., like the White House, the Senate, and to be just a little piece of that as the first high school chapter, might I add, in California.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a really cool and great thing. We just want to make sure that that voice is heard. So, before our time ends here at Bravo, we're hoping to do some outreach to other high schools in the area and hopefully have students there start their own United We Dream chapter, and just making sure that that voice is heard and it's continued to be there, and just give it a platform for it to, evolve.
Awesome. And times have changed. Times have changed quite a bit. I'm almost 60, and when I was in high school back in the 80s, I came to the U.S. also when I was young. You're about your age. When I was 15, I was undocumented, and it was a tough time. It was a tough time to even talk about it, right? We didn't even want anyone to know. So I commend you for, I don't even know if you were documented or not, but to talk about the topic, right? Just to even mention it was taboo. It was difficult, and I wasn't able to talk about it until recently. And I openly said it to my faculty, to the staff, to my colleagues. This is my experience, and I think it's important for me to share with you what my experience is, because you need to know who is in front of you, right? Not just me, the principal, but your students. And you need to know that they go through certain things that you may not even be aware of. And that's important because they're human beings, and they need you to recognize them fully, not just as, student number 27 or whatever. And we're fortunate that our staff is great. And for the most part, I think our staff is great. I think our teachers are very, very responsive, and they care, and so I'm very grateful to work here. So I took the time to share that kind of story, only because, and I know I'm not the only one who has had that background and has been able to do things, right? Because we have students who are dreamers. We have some already professionals who are dreamers, and things are changing for them again, right? And so it's important to use our voice and to take a little bit of risks. So, and you talked a little bit about the other question that I had is, how does this affect, or what kind of effect do you hope to have beyond the Bravo community? And you talked a little bit about maybe reaching out to other high schools and establishing, opening new chapters at their high schools. So what are some things that you may need to do that, to be able to do that and reach out and have an effect beyond the Bravo community?
So, we are the first high school chapter in California. I think there's only one other high school chapter in Maryland, and the rest coincide in universities, so colleges. We know her sister was previously affiliated with Undocu Pride, which is at UC Merced. We have a Fullerton chapter as well, a chapter in, I think, Irvine.
I think so.
Yeah, we have a couple chapters out there, and we all have talked, we've united, we've collaborated in some sense, like trainings and just spread of information. So when it comes to expanding and having that outreach with other schools, first and foremost, it's collaboration, it's reaching out to students. social media is super big now.
Yeah.
And we believe that through social media, we can find students that might be interested. We do know, a lot of students around this area that are already interested in United We Dream as a parent organization. And I think it's just important to express, one, the need, and two, the power to be able to execute it. When we first started, it was a little bit isolating because we felt, there wasn't a lot of people that could support us. But as we gained confidence and we reached out to people that could help us, it's like it started trickling in. And like you mentioned, the staff here have been very helpful. They've been very resourceful. I would like personally like to thank, teachers like Miss Mendoza, Miss Montes, the college counselor, Mr. Rodriguez, McSolo. They're teachers that have been very supportive in our club. They've given us ideas. They've provided resources. And so they've been giving us like that confidence to go out to other schools and be like, hey, you can have a club too. Like you can be another chapter, another extension. And it's like hopefully just branching out through schools in LA. We know like of mecha clubs, but we're like, hey, but we can start our own type of mecha and be like United We Dream, which is why it also played into why we changed our name. We just wanted to be like that representation of United We Dream as a whole, and hopefully show other schools that they too can achieve this type of club.
Great. I was thinking about Mecha because when I was in high school and college, I was in Mecha. I was president of Mecha, in fact, when I was in college. And one of the suggestions or one of the ideas that I was thinking of, reason why it came up, is we used to have like a Mecha conference every year. And, all these chapters would come together and we would meet either at UCLA. I remember going to UC Irvine and up north somewhere. I can't remember where. So it may be a good idea to have a kind of like a conference of all the chapters at some location and share ideas, share resources, that kind of thing, communicate, share information. Well, I am very proud of both of you as the principal. I had nothing to do with your work. I had nothing to do with what you have done. I know that there are other teachers and staff who have helped you. I wish I had been a little bit more informed about your work and helped you out. But here we are, and the sky's the limit, right? The sky's the limit, and so. I don't know if you have any questions or any other thoughts you may want to share with us.
Yeah, so just a quick, you mentioned like a conference. United We Dream actually does host summits.
Okay.
So we do plan, I think it's like June, to have a summit with all chapters in the Southern California area. And so it will unite a couple of chapters, and hopefully we can plan with the students that we hope to leave this club to, and basically provide the resources that they might need to build a strong foundation for future years at Bravo. And, in terms of like support of staff, hopefully to keep this club going once we're gone. We're both seniors, and a lot of our board members are seniors as well. So yeah, I think we've just been trying to enforce the idea of student success being pictured in a way that, changing the rhetoric of what's going on with our immigrant communities. It's these summits, these like conferences, they have students that have already reached higher education with undocumented status, or students that are of mixed status families. And, it's just further emphasizing the idea that success isn't deemed, or it isn't determined by how far you get in life, but just by existing in a country or in a space that tries hard to reject you. And so we like to emphasize the idea that success is, existing, it's surviving, it's providing love for our communities, it's providing that passion and that strength that we have with one another, that unity. And so, yeah, so we like to just further emphasize that idea with other clubs, other chapters, and hopefully other clubs as well. We have collaborated with a couple clubs on campus, and they share that same idea and that same mission. And so, Bravo has been a great space for us to do that. And yeah, so we would just like to thank you for what you've done for our school as well, and for providing, this environment where we feel that we could express ourselves.
I just, I'm listening to you and I just learned something. I mean, I guess I knew it, but it's really good to hear it from someone else. This idea that success is not how far you get. Success is really just existing. It's just being, right? And that's so important because we're all, maybe I've been guilty too, pushing people, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do FAFSA, you need to do Cal State, you need to do, right? Thinking that I want the best for you, but I also should remind myself that being here is success. Being here together with this family, this community is success. So thank you. I learned something. I really did. Now, having said that, I'm going to ask you the next question. So you're seniors. What are the plans?
Do you want to start?
Yeah. Well, I already applied to Cal State's UCs. Let's see which I want to go to a UC, so let's just see which UC is the best, which one I get accepted to, which is the best, which gives me the best financial aid.
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and for UCs, I did put Chicano studies because I'm really interested in Chicano studies. But hopefully, I'll change that. Get my I can't pronounce it.
Prerequisites.
That and hopefully go into dental school.
Awesome.
Yeah, because
Great.
can I say about my plans or no?
Yes, of course.
Because I'm always been interested in like marginalized communities. I always want to help out, and I feel like if I become an orthodontist specifically, I kind of want to like travel into like developing countries and somehow do like free dental care. Hygienic. They don't have much access. Those type of countries don't have much access, and I want to just help out. If I'm able to, then I might as well help out.
That's awesome because you know why we're Bravo Medical Magnet? Dr. Francisco Bravo was a doctor that served farmers, the farmer community, and so he traveled with farmers in different locations and volunteered his work and his time to help the farmers, the immigrant communities, and so that's our namesake. That's who we are.
That's really cool. Yeah. So for me, I intend to be a political science major, or for some schools I did apply public policy with a minor in Chicano or Chicanx studies. With that being said, I've always had it in mind to become an immigration attorney. And to hopefully start a law firm in South Central. I'm originally from South Central, so I can see the change of communities, but that's my native place. That's where I come from, and that's where I grew up for a while. And so my goal is to become an immigration attorney and start a nonprofit in South Central that serves the immigrant community. So I've done a lot of nonprofit work, and it's been like a growing passion of mine. And so I think it's just combining those two, and I hope to stay in Southern California because I hope to continue that work, serving the community as well, and I feel that this is the place for me. So all the schools, like Aisha kind of mentioned, the UCs, the Cal States, it's all residing in Southern California, just for that.
Great. I'm going to ask you whereabouts in South Central, because I worked in two schools in South Central, and there were awesome schools to work at. I loved it there. First school I worked there was Manual Arts High School. I was a toiler back then. And then as a teacher, I was a math teacher there. And then as an assistant principal, I worked at Washington Prep High School, which is further down south, 112th and 110th on Normandy. Great school also, many different community, but a great school in so many ways. So whereabouts, what's your home school?
Yeah, so my home school, I resided in the literal bridgeway of Watts and South Central. So I was by like the Watts Towers.
Okay.
And so my home school, I think, was Locke High School.
Locke, yeah.
And even then, my mom made it her mission to have me study further downtown. So elementary, middle school, I was in the USC area, so like Exposition Park.
Okay.
So initially I was supposed to go to orthopedic medical magnet high school, but I decided, no, I'm gonna, steer away. Let's go as far as I can get. And I landed here at Bravo. So
Great choice.
yeah, and honestly, I think it was very eye-opening. It's two different experiences, two different environments. But I always like to say I thank God for the ability to put me here because I've met so many different people of different cultures, of different backgrounds. And, with a club like this, it's so important to be exposed to that, to really consider everyone as a whole. And I wouldn't say South Central wasn't that place for me, but it's the duality of it all is such a beautiful thing. And I find that there's a beautiful aspect in being multifaceted and being able to be exposed to all these communities because we take it into consideration in our planning. And we take it into consideration in our mission and our purpose as, this club on campus. So, that's something that we were able to bring into when, we were building up this club. And so, yeah, so Watts, you could say.
Well, great choice. Great to, that you chose Bravo Medical Magnet. But had you chosen Orthopedic Medical Magnet, you would probably have my son as your senior English teacher. He teaches there. So
What's his name?
He's got to be a Lopez, right? So,
Right.
Pablo Lopez.
Lopez. My sister went to orthopedic medical
Oh, yeah.
magnet.
He just began. So
yeah,
he's
so I
just,
was like, maybe I knew him.
No,
but
he's just, he's what, second, third year teacher.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. My
yeah,
sister
so-
graduated 2019, so yeah, I didn't.
That's before.
That would have
beforehand.
been really interesting. I think that's
Yeah.
the cool thing is everyone kind of knows each other, and so it's really cool to see that, our friends are like, just even if it's an acquaintance, they have a lot of connections with schools everywhere. So we're hoping to use that when it comes to the outreach that we, previously mentioned, to just expand this sort of club and this sort of like mission that we're like furthering, like emphasizing.
Well, thank you. This has been great. I learned a lot, and I always enjoy these because I do. I learned a lot. I haven't. I am an older man. I have a different experience way back then. Obviously, I'm privileged in so many ways. Although I started in something of a similar situation, not something in a very similar situation, but it was different, right? It was different, and I have acquired a lot of privilege in so many ways. So my perspective can be limited sometimes. It's always great to talk to students and to get a different perspective and be open-minded to new ideas. So thank you. And I want to thank our public again for joining us in another edition of our podcast. And as usual, be a good night.
Thank you for having us,
you.
of course.
Mhm.